Hey there, Nicki here. Are you feeling overwhelmed by too many art techniques, too many watercolor processes, too many things to focus on, and you're feeling a little bit stuck? Maybe you're feeling like there's a bit of tension in your art process and art making. You're not sure what you should focus on. You're not sure what the proper steps are or the right way to do things. I'm here to chat with you a little bit. Maybe pull out your art, pull out your sketchbook, some watercolor that you want to swatch, and as I'm chatting with you, just enjoy this time that we're going to spend together, and I'm hoping that it will help you work through a little bit of your frustration and creating a little bit more ease and releasing that tension and overwhelm when it comes to art making. If you've been in my space for any amount of time, you'll already know that I am a big advocate for making art approachable, making it easy, making it fun, and having you feel like you're achieving success in your practice. Whether you are brand new and you are working on understanding how to use your brush and creating those single stroke leaves that I teach, or maybe mixing a little bit of watercolor and just practicing some brush strokes, or you're working on more finished paintings that you're starting to show and share and maybe even sell, but you're a little bit overwhelmed or feeling a bit of tension with the process of watercolor painting. I want this video or this tutorial or this studio chat to help you through that process so that you can feel a little bit more ease, so you can feel a bit more confident in creating your own personal style and practice when it comes to watercolor, and to maybe even help you problem solve a little bit. Okay, so maybe you're thinking about all of the techniques when it comes to watercolor. You've heard wet on wet and wet on dry and lifting and all of those really important watercolor techniques. What I want you to keep in mind when you're painting with watercolor really is, how do you want the watercolor painting to feel when it's finished? Do you like hard lines, soft lines? Do you want the watercolor to behave in a way that's a little bit more flowing and a release that need to control the watercolor paint at all? If so, and if those are things that you're thinking of, or maybe you're not sure, I want you to practice just one technique. Work wet on wet on your paper and observe what the watercolor is doing, and observe what it looks like dry, and make yourself notes. So again, if you've been in my space, you know I'm a big advocate for working in a sketchbook. I'm in the process of creating some new things for you, so I make myself notes and I experiment and explore so that I can work out things in my head as I'm working on my art practice to create some of that ease and release some of that overwhelm. So again, if you are new, maybe you want to pick one technique. So maybe it's dry brushing and you want to focus on learning how to control that dry brush even more, which can be a little bit more of an advanced technique, but something that allows you to put in a bit more interest and a deeper tone in your watercolor paintings so that it brings them to life a little bit more. I want you to pick one thing. So one thing that I teach, one thing that you see in my book or in my classes, and practice that again and again and again until it feels like there's a bit more ease, and then you can achieve the goal of whatever it is that you are working on in your watercolor painting and at this stage of where you are currently at in your practice. Okay, so the second thing that I want you to think about is, where is that frustration and that overwhelm coming from? So sometimes when we consume a lot of information, especially here on YouTube or on social media, you're looking at different artist perspectives and approaches and goals and experience levels and ways of doing things. And often it's things that they've developed in their own personal practice that they're sharing with you. When we're in the mode of consuming without putting into practice, we can become overwhelmed. And I think this is especially true in this day and age where we have access to so much information. I don't know about you, but I have so many tabs open, so many videos saved, so much inspiration that I've got on my phone, my laptop, my sketchbooks. It can really drown and stifle our own personal practice and create that overwhelm and anxiety when it comes to sitting down to paint. So just because 10 different artists are using 10 different techniques and approaches and have, their technique as their number one, it doesn't mean you have to adopt all of those techniques. Learn from them, be inspired by them, take advice if you choose, leave what doesn't serve you, but know that you don't have to do it all, and you don't have to do it all in one technique or in one way. I often feel like I'm breaking the rules. I didn't go to art school, so I don't have that formal education, which I think has been a big benefit to me because it's allowed me to create my own process and figure out what works for me and what makes me feel fulfilled in the way that I make art. So try to distill that information. I've talked about this a lot before. Try to distill all that information and really think about what suits you or what you want to work on. And you don't have to do all of the different techniques that, multiple artists use for different types of art making. It really comes down to what kind of art do you want to make. So if you're creating loose botanicals, for instance, or even loose landscapes, again, just because I have a page open in my artist planner, then your process for creating those loose, really flowy looking landscapes is going to be different than someone who is creating maybe a more realistic portrait and the way that they're using the watercolor medium. The beautiful thing with watercolor is you can use it so many different ways, and you can adapt it to what your goal is. It's just being able to figure out what works for you, and don't be overwhelmed by all of the different techniques that you have to try to remember and to put into practice. Make it really simple. Use a few techniques. I personally probably only use wet on wet, and then I do a little bit of wet on dry to build up my layers. I don't worry about scratching in and doing major lifting unless I'm trying to bring some highlights out. There are different techniques that I really don't bother with because I have my practice and my flow, and I've been able to get there because I have removed myself from all of the information. Again, looking at my artist project planner, it's a way that I look within to figure out what I want to do next and look at the skills that I have and the techniques that I have to try to bring those to life. And it's through practice that you get there. So sometimes when we're consuming content, whether they're classes, books, videos, you name it, we feel like we're in a creative state because we're observing and we're experiencing what we're watching, but we actually haven't put anything into practice. So when you finally do sit down with your art supplies to actually make art, you might feel frustrated because you haven't put in that practice and you're not where you want to be. Best way to remedy that, distill the information, so maybe pick one or two techniques, put into practice what you are trying to achieve, and do it over and over and over again. That's where the magic happens. It truly is. Okay, so this is going to reiterate a little bit of what I just talked about, but it's thinking about what your core goal is when it comes to your watercolor painting. What is the outcome? Why are you painting? Are you painting so that it becomes a meditative, joyful practice? Is it because you want to grow your skill and confidence? Is it because you want to start selling your paintings? You want to feel like your paintings are ready, or you're ready to sell those paintings? I want you to release, again, we're talking about overwhelm. How do we release that overwhelm? I want you to go back to your core goal and think about what it is that you want from this practice, from painting, from experiencing that painting. And make sure that whatever you're doing serves those core goals. And then that way, what you bring into your practice and what you work on will help you get to your goal even more efficiently, with more ease, with more joy, all of the beautiful things that I want for you within your art practice. Okay, so that's a real simple one. Sometimes it's just going back to, what's your goal? Why did you start painting to begin with? What is it that you want to experience? Or what's next? So maybe you've taken some classes, you've been painting for a few years with me, and you're thinking about what's next. I don't want to tell you what's next. That's none of my business to be the one to say, this is what you should be doing next. These are the techniques you should be working on. This is where you should be going. If anyone is telling you that, I hope you're paying them for advice because I want them to think about your best interest. And the only way that those answers are possible are if you look inward and really decide what it is that you want to achieve more of, or achieve next, or you want to create next. I always think back at my portrait studies because that was a big one for me. For years, I wanted to feel like I could master drawing and painting portraits. And I would start and stop and consume and start and stop, and I was never in a personal flow. I feel like I overwhelmed myself with classes, in person, online, you name it, books, and I never got to practice one specific technique, really put that into practice in my everyday, sketchbooks, on paper, you name it, to be able to then grasp and create that confidence, skill, technique, and personal process. I was consuming so many different processes from different artists who are fantastically talented and who I look up to, but it didn't serve me. It didn't suit my personal goal, which was to become proficient with painting and drawing portraits. And then it became overwhelming, and I would put it away, I'd pick it up, and put it away and pick it up. So it wasn't until I said, no, I'm not going to consume anything else about portraits. I have enough up here. I need to actually put into practice, that I did that 100-day project, which I've talked about if you've been in my space for a while. And I literally just put into practice everything that I knew, and I worked out any issues, and I tweaked, and I just continued. Whether I drew and painted a bad portrait or it was a good portrait, I didn't care. I just wanted to put into practice and to achieve my goal of being able to feel more confident, successful more often. And I was creating portraits that really made me happy. Okay, so think about your personal goal, go inward a little bit, try to zone out and block out all of the noise that we have around us with technology. As beautiful as it is, it can be overwhelming, and really think about what it is that you want to do next, or achieve next, or create next, and push yourself towards that, because you can do it. If you have that goal, I guarantee you can do it. You just need to come in a little bit and figure out what your next steps are. Okay, so my last piece of advice when it comes to just creating a little bit more space and removing that overwhelm is to slow down. Okay, so what I mean by that is to go at your own pace, and that you don't have to do things overnight, and it's okay if you go slow, and I actually recommend you go slow. I just launched a new program, Life You Design, where I take artists through a 12-month journey of starting their own art-based business. I could have made it a 30-day program. I could have made it a class where they get all the information at once and they just go through it at their own pace. I feel like we are constantly trying to go faster. It's, delivery is faster when we're ordering things online. We want things to happen really quick. And that's, great that we have the information from, social media. We can do quick banking. We can do quick transactions. We can, there's some things in our lives that I feel like, if I could only lose 10 pounds more quickly. If you know, you know. But I am of the mindset, and more recently so, that I want to slow down. I personally want to slow down in my everyday. I feel like time is just running really quickly, and I'm not embracing moments enough. And I even think about how we binge watch TV shows. Back in the day, you'd have to wait a full week until your favorite show drops a new episode. Nowadays, we have all of these, episodes on TV, or on Netflix, or on streaming services where we can binge everything. And it's like we want it fast. I feel it myself. So I want you to know that it's okay to go slow, and it's okay to take time to put into practice the things that you're learning, to put into practice things that you're doing towards your goal, whether it's painting or learning something new, or starting your art business, or losing that 10 pounds, whatever that is. I want you to take your time and to know that the beauty is in the process. I even think about sometimes traveling when we're on road trips. The beauty of the experience sometimes is the adventure of getting there. And then when you're fully immersed in that experience, the getting there means when you're finally there, the process feels lighter, more fulfilling, more uplifting. It makes you want to do it more. So again, I could tell you these are the things you need to do, and in 30 days you're going to become, an advanced watercolorist. But it's not the experience I want for you. I want you to find moments in your everyday that you can connect with your art practice, where you can work on your art skills and build that confidence. And even observing color, as I'm looking at the window past the camera recording this video, I'm looking at the colors outside. It's still winter. There's just a beautiful contrast with the evergreens against the white of the snow. It's slowing down to be mindful of those moments, because those moments will actually help to inspire your art practice too, because you'll look at colors differently, shapes and shadows differently, and then being able to document those observances in your everyday and document them in your art practice will again allow you to connect, practice more, create less overwhelm, and then grow your skill and technique. Does that make sense? Okay, I would love for everything to be fast, but I also would love for things to slow down a little bit. So to create a little less overwhelm, think about different ways that you can slow down your art practice, and even give yourself more space between goals or what you're working on, so that you have more room to grow into them. I know when I used to talk a lot about goal setting, specifically when it comes to learning something new, or again, starting your art-based business, giving yourself time to implement is really huge. That means all the world in difference when it comes to having success with achieving a goal and not. So if you're trying to do too much at once in a very short time frame, you're not going to be successful. You're going to feel disappointed, overwhelmed, and even maybe devoted. I'll try that again. Maybe even demotivated to continue. And that's not what I want from you. I want you to have things simplified. I want you to be able to sit down and have them in, small chunks, so that you can achieve whatever it is, again, that you're working on, whether it's your art practice. I'm talking about art business because that's something that I'm focusing a lot more on now. And even losing those 10 pounds. If you know, you know. But I want you to, chunk it out into smaller, actionable steps, and then give yourself that time so that you can work on those goals, and know that it takes time. It takes time. It doesn't have to be 30-day mastering skills, and then boom, you're done. I want you to enjoy the process, simplify, really put into practice, feel successful, so that you have the courage to move on to the next step. Okay, so let me know in the comments whichever approach has spoken to you, or maybe if there was a big takeaway or you had an aha moment. But just to close off this video, make your art practice something that fills you up more often than not. If it doesn't challenge you sometimes, that's okay, but it should. It should push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. Think about ways that you can work on small chunks. So take one technique, really spend some time with it. Maybe give yourself 30 days for that one technique. Repeat a process over and over again, and then observe what happens, so that you can enjoy the process, but then also elevate your skill set, elevate your confidence to go to the next step and to achieve the next thing. Let me know in the comments which one spoke to you the most. If you are new to watercolor or looking to grow your watercolor skills, I have online classes and books devoted to all of that. If you're looking to maybe start your art business and you've seen what I've been doing online with selling my art, sharing, teaching, you name it, go ahead and check out Life You Design. It's a beautiful program that I'm just putting a lot of my passion into to help you through that process, and hopefully to create less overwhelm there, but also to empower you with information that you can do it. If you have a passion to sell your art, I want that for you, and I want to help you through that process. Thank you as always for tuning in. Remember to give the video a double thumbs up if you get a sec, and subscribe so that you can get notified when these new videos drop. If you have any questions or ideas for what you'd love for me to share next, let me know in the comments. I am all ears and have been having a lot of fun creating these really quick videos for you. So thanks for being here. May you have less overwhelm and more ease in your art practice, and I will see you next time.